Welcome in, everyone. Pull up a chair, get comfortable.
Yeah, settle in with us.
Because, there is really nothing quite like that feeling of having a massive stack of incredibly fascinating reading material right in front of you, just waiting to be unpacked.
Oh, absolutely. It's the best feeling.
And today we have exactly that for you. We're diving into a really rich, truly captivating collection of dispatches from IndiaRevue.
All dated March 1st, 2026.
Right, exactly. And the mission for this deep dive today is to map out the current, uh, somewhat chaotic but entirely mesmerizing landscape of Indian cinema and pop culture.
It is definitely chaotic right now.
It is. We are looking at a world where cold, hard, billion-dollar business decisions are sitting right next to the most intimate, vulnerable human moments.
Yeah.
It's this exploration of how the monolithic machinery of the film industry collides with the raw, totally unpredictable energy of the internet, and of course, the enduring legacy of pure art.
And I think that tension is exactly what makes this particular stack of readings so compelling for you to listen to today. Because we are looking at multiple ecosystems colliding in real time. On one hand, you have the architectural, almost mathematical planning of mega blockbusters, where a single change in a holiday release date alters the entertainment consumption of an entire nation.
Literally millions of people.
Right. But right alongside that, you have a completely different kind of preservation happening, where a nearly 4-decade-old, practically forgotten television film suddenly becomes one of the most culturally relevant pieces of media today.
It's a massive shift.
It's a fascinating duality.
Yeah.
We're constantly bouncing between the artists navigating this massive corporate machinery, protecting their mental peace,
Yeah.
and the digital culture that often feels like it only cares about the next viral moment.
I want to start right at the top at that corporate machinery, actually, because the sheer scale of the money and the strategy involved is staggering.
It's chess.
It is. Imagine a high-stakes chess game, but the board is the calendar year, and the pieces are the biggest movie stars on the planet. Our first dispatch today drops a massive bombshell. An unnamed $1 billion grossing box office star has entirely vacated the highly coveted Eid release slot.
Which is huge.
It's prime real estate. Eid has traditionally been the absolute holy grail of release dates, but this star has backed out entirely to avoid a clash with two highly anticipated titans, Durandar 2 and Toxic.
Yeah, the three-way clash was brewing.
And I have to admit, my first reaction to reading this was surprise. A billion-dollar star blinking in a game of box office chicken.
See, it's tempting to frame it as blinking, or as a concession.
Yeah.
But I actually read this as a cute, almost ruthless business acumen.
Really? How so?
Well, we have to look at the systemic stakes of release slot economics.
Yeah.
A holiday release like Eid isn't just about the fact that more people have the day off work and are looking for celebration.
Right, they have time and money to spend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's really about multiplex, footfall, single-screen dominance, and crucially, exhibitor screen sharing.
Screen sharing.
Yes. When a studio puts out a film of this magnitude, a tentpole that requires a billion-dollar return to justify its existence, the goal is absolute market saturation. You need that film playing on 4 out of 5 screens at every single multiplex in the country.
But wait, don't audiences just pick the movie they want to see regardless of how many screens it's on? I mean, if the star has the pull, the fans will find the screen right.
In theory, sure. But exhibitor screen sharing is a zero-sum game. There were only a finite number of physical theater seats in the country.
Oh, I see.
If Durandar 2 and Toxic are both demanding maximum screens because of their immense hype and massive distributor leverage,
Which they absolutely are.
right? Throwing a third massive film into the mix doesn't expand the market, it completely fractures it. Theater owners are forced to choose, which means every film loses out on optimal showtimes.
Because the audience only has so much disposable income for a single weekend.
Exactly. By vacating the slot, this star isn't showing weakness. They are preserving the lifetime value of their own film by moving it to a date where it can breathe and dominate, rather than fighting a three-way war of attrition that just leaves everyone bruised.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. It's not cowardice, it's preserving the asset.
Yeah.
And it leaves the Eid slot exclusively to Durandar 2 and Toxic, which sets up a fascinating head-to-head battle.
A massive one.
There's a piece from Filmy Charcha in our reading today that hints at a hidden factor determining the winner between those two.
They don't spell out exactly what it is, though.
No, which of course is a brilliant tease. But what we do have is some serious critical analysis regarding Durandar.
Yes, the Shohad Day piece.
Right. Shobhazde has penned a critique examining the hype around the film. She specifically weighs in on Akshay Khanna's role, Ranveer Singh's performance, and most notably, she heavily examines the film's political framing.
And this is a vital evolution in how mass cinema is consumed and discussed today. When a prominent critic examines the political framing of a massive commercial entertainer like Durandar, we are seeing a masterclass in cultural dissection.
For sure.
Now, it is incredibly important to state clearly to you listening right now, we are observing the mechanism of the critique itself here.
Absolutely.
We are not taking a side on the politics of the film, nor are we endorsing or rejecting the specific political views of the critic.
Right. Our goal is just to look at the landscape.
Exactly. What is fascinating here is the lens being used. Modern mass cinema is rarely allowed to just be about explosions, dance numbers, and dialogue anymore.
The audience demands more.
Critics are increasingly dissecting the socio-political undertones, analyzing who is positioned as the hero, who is the villain, and what underlying ideology is being validated on screen.
It's the idea that a blockbuster is fundamentally a mirror held up to society. Or at least a mirror held up to what the filmmakers believe society wants to see and applaud at that specific cultural moment.
Exactly. The sheer scale of these films means they are treated as cultural barometers.
Yeah.
Whether a viewer agrees with the film's politics or the critic's politics is almost secondary to the reality that this level of discourse is now standard. It proves that the billion-dollar chessboard we were just talking about isn't just an economic battleground, it's an economy of ideas.
That is a great way to put it. The filmmakers are making massive bets on the prevailing cultural mood, and critics are mapping that terrain.
Precisely.
You know, I was looking at the financials for some of these upcoming projects, and the way the risk is managed before the cultural mood is even tested is wild.
Pre-release safety nets.
Yes, we have an upcoming film called Haiwan, starring Akshay Kumar and Saif Ali Khan, directed by Priyadarshan. According to the reports, Sony Network just bought the non-theatrical rights. That means satellite television, digital streaming, and music.
For an absolutely massive number.
For rupees 80 crores. To put that into perspective for you, that single transaction recovers 70% of the film's entire budget before a single ticket is sold at a box office.
That 80 crore figure is a paradigm-shifting number. It completely alters the risk profile of filmmaking at the highest levels.
How so?
When we talk about non-theatrical rights, we're talking about the guaranteed long-tail life of a film. Satellite TV reaches the deepest parts of the country where multiplexes don't even exist.
Sure.
Digital rights guarantee global accessibility on demand. Recovering 70% of your investment pre-release means the theatrical run, that high-stress, unpredictable opening weekend we just discussed with the Eid clash, suddenly becomes far less existential.
The studio can breathe.
Exactly.
But how does a pre-release deal that massive alter the creative risk profile for a director, though? If I'm a producer and I know my financial downside is protected by an 80 crore safety net, does that encourage me to be bolder with my storytelling? Or does it do the exact opposite?
That's the big question.
Does it encourage me to make something incredibly formulaic just to ensure those network executives feel safe writing the check?
Historically, and looking at the current landscape, it heavily leans toward the formulaic.
Right.
Yeah, when you are optimizing for a satellite TV audience or a global algorithmic streaming platform, there is a massive gravitational pull toward established tropes.
Yeah.
You're selling a known quantity.
Like a brand.
Exactly. We see this with another item in our stack today, Rohit Shetty's Golmaal 5.
Oh, right.
T-Series just secured the music rights alone for approximately rupees 9 crores.
And filming has barely even commenced.
Right. They're paying 9 crores essentially for the promise of the Golmaal brand, and the historical success of Rohit Shetty's comedic universe is the monetization of anticipation.
It's wild to think about buying the rights to music that doesn't even exist yet.
It is.
But then you have the complete inverse of that model. Look at Rani Mukherjee's Mardani 3.
A perfect counterexample.
The reports show it just hit rupees 75 crore in 4 weeks of its theatrical run. That is pure sustained theatrical momentum.
It's pure audience word of mouth.
Exactly.
Right.
That's audiences going to the theater in week 2, week 3, week 4, completely driven by the fact that the film delivered a compelling experience.
It is a crucial counterbalance. Mardani 3 didn't rely on the sheer brute force of massive pre-release corporate deals to secure its financial legacy. It relied on the strength of its franchise and the quality of its execution to keep people buying tickets day after day.
So you really have these two parallel economic engines driving the industry right now.
You do.
The prepackaged, de-risked corporate IP deals of a Haiwan or a Golmaal, and the hard-fought, audience-driven theatrical endurance of a Mardani 3.
Both generate massive revenue, but they require entirely different strategies. And they place very different pressures on the artists involved.
And speaking of the pressure on the art itself, that brings up a totally different side of the industry that we found in our sources today. We've been dissecting the ruthless modern economics of cinema, but our reading also takes us deeply into the soul of it.
The preservation of legacy.
Yes, get ready for this. Arundhati Roy's cult classic television film in which Annie Gives It, Those Ones directed by Pradeep Kishan, is getting a theatrical release.
Which is just incredible.
But here's the kicker. It's releasing 37 years after it was made in 1989.
This is a monumental cinematic event, and it operates on so many levels. For context for you listening, this was originally a television film, an incredibly niche, quirky, brilliant piece of work written by Arundhati Roy long before she won the Booker Prize and became a global literary icon.
And the cast is a complete time capsule.
It really is.
It features a very young Shah Rukh Khan in a gay role, and Manoj Bajpayee. These are megastars in their absolute infancy as actors taking really unconventional swings.
The sheer joy of uncovering those early career moments is so special. Imagine sitting in a theater today watching a 4K restoration of a 37-year-old TV movie and seeing SRK before he was the king of Bollywood.
I would love to see that in a theater. It's been beautifully restored by the Film Heritage Foundation, too.
Yes.
And that physical process of restoration connects directly to another fascinating piece we have today, an incredible editorial tour of Prasad Labs in Chennai.
Prasad Labs is practically sacred ground for Indian cinema.
It sounds like it.
The editorial highlights the enduring value of analog negatives, the meticulous tactile process of color grading, and the sheer human artistry involved in post-production. It is so easy in our current era to assume film is just zeros and ones, just digital files stored on some cloud server.
But the tour reminds us that for decades, film was a physical object. It had a smell. It had weight.
It took up physical space.
It could be scratched. It could gather dust. It could physically degrade over time. The Film Heritage Foundation, taking an analog negative of Arundhati Roy's film, scanning it frame by agonizing frame, manually restoring the colors, fixing the blemishes. It's not just a technical process.
Right.
It's an act of deep cultural reverence.
I would argue it is a vital counter-movement to the systemic push toward pure digital. Digital is convenient, yes, but it is deeply ephemeral.
Meaning it can just vanish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hard drive can fail. A proprietary file format can become totally obsolete in a decade. An analog negative is stored correctly in a climate-controlled vault at a place like Prasad Labs can last for well over a century.
That's amazing to think about.
The artistry of the technicians who handle these physical strips of celluloid, who intuitively understand the chemistry of the medium, is a dying but essential craft. It forces the industry to ask a hard question. What are we actively choosing to preserve?
Which perfectly brings up the massive debate currently raging over the Letterboxd Top 500 list.
Oh, this is a huge topic right now.
For those of you who might not use it, Letterboxd is essentially the premier social media platform for film logging and reviewing globally. They maintain an official Top 500 films list based on their user ratings.
Out of 500 of the supposedly greatest films of all time,
Right. Guess how many Indian films made the cut?
it's shockingly low.
9. Just 9. Satyajit Ray's Apur Sansar is the highest, sitting at number 93.
The uproar over this is entirely justified. The omissions are glaring to anyone who studies global cinema. How can a definitive list completely ignore monumental, genre-defining masterpieces like Mani Ratnam's Nayakan or Mehboob Khan's Mother India?
It doesn't make sense.
What we are seeing here isn't necessarily a malicious conspiracy against Indian cinema, though. It is structural bias embedded in Western-centric film archiving distribution and the resulting ranking algorithms.
Oh, so you're saying it's not a bias against the films themselves, but a historical distribution bottleneck?
Yes.
Why does this massive global community of cinephiles people who pride themselves on watching obscure cinema overlook these masterpieces?
It's largely about access and foundational exposure. For decades, the West's exposure to Indian cinema was largely limited to the curated festival circuit, specifically the works of Satyajit Ray, which is exactly why Opera Sansar rightfully sits on that list.
That makes sense.
But the grand operatic mass-market masterpieces, the visceral emotional epics of Indian commercial and parallel cinema, were never widely distributed in Western art house theaters or on their early boutique DVD labels.
So they just never saw them.
Exactly. Therefore, the user base of a platform like Letterboxd, which skews heavily Western, simply doesn't have the foundational exposure to these films.
Yeah.
The algorithm mathematically reflects the cultural blind spots of its users. If they haven't seen it, they can't rate it.
And if they can't stream it in a pristine 4K restoration, it effectively doesn't exist to that demographic.
Precisely.
It really makes the work of Prasad Labs and the Film Heritage Foundation seem not just nostalgic, but absolutely urgent. We know the global influence has always been there, though. Look at the other piece in IndiaRevue today analyzing India's milestones at the Cannes Film Festival.
It's a rich history.
It stretches all the way back to 1946 with Chetan right up to Payal Kapadia winning the Grand Prix in 2024.
Exactly. The Cannes analysis is the perfect counter-narrative to the Letterboxd algorithm. It proves that on the absolute highest artistic stages evaluated by international juries of peers, Indian cinema has been recognized, validated, and celebrated for nearly 80 years.
It's not a question of quality.
Not at all. The disconnect lies entirely in the democratization of criticism on the internet, where a lack of readily available archives essentially erases history.
Wow.
It prompts a deeply personal thought for you listening right now, actually. Think about your own digital footprint. We capture everything on our phones, but if our personal history is entirely digital, what happens to the analog negatives of our own lives?
That is heavy.
Where is our personal climate-controlled vault? If platform goes down or an algorithm changes, do our memories just vanish?
It really makes you rethink storing everything on a single cloud account. But that idea of personal vulnerability is the perfect bridge into what we are looking at next. We've talked about the billion-dollar businesses and the macro preservation of global legacies. Now let's peel back the curtain and look at the actual human beings underneath all of this machinery.
The personal side of the art.
We have 4 distinct stories here that show incredible vulnerability in raw craft. First, director Anubhav Sinha has a podcast called Boldy, and he recently did an episode where he dissected with completely open, unguarded honesty the failure of his massive sci-fi superhero film, Raw One.
This is phenomenally rare.
It really is.
The entertainment industry is fundamentally built on projecting an aura of invincibility. For a director of Sinha's stature to sit down and openly dissect a highly public, intensely scrutinized failure is a profound act of vulnerability.
He didn't just talk about the box office receipts or the technical hurdles either.
No, he didn't.
He talked about the deep personal bonds that sustained him through that period, specifically his relationships with Shah Rukh Dharmendra and Rishi Kapoor.
The isolation of a public flop must be absolutely staggering. You can have the 80-crore safety nets we talked about earlier. The studios might be insulated financially. But when a film you poured years of your life into gets torn apart by critics and audiences, nothing insulates the artist's ego or their heart.
You are just a human being sitting in the dark, needing your friends to tell you it's going to be okay.
That's the reality behind the glitz.
Yeah.
And speaking to that exact reality, Sunil Shetty gave an incredibly profound interview to Raj Shamani recently.
Yes, I read that one.
He reflected deeply on career resilience and navigating decades of rejection. But the most fascinating part of the conversation was his deep dive into his real estate strategies.
At first glance, you read that and you think, okay, a Bollywood star is giving investment advice on a podcast, but it is so much deeper than just diversifying a portfolio.
It is a profound survival mechanism.
Oh.
Think about the psychological toll of the Friday box office.
Right.
An actor is essentially a product whose value fluctuates wildly and entirely out of their control based on public whim. If a movie bombs your, quote, drops, your calls aren't returned.
It's brutal.
Sunil Shetty's strategy of heavily investing in real estate wasn't just about building wealth. It was a psychological defense against the precarious nature of fame. It provided him with a tangible, unshakable foundation.
When the industry says no, the bricks and mortar say you are secure.
Exactly. It allows an actor to walk into an audition or a pitch meeting without the desperation that destroys careers. He built a literal fortress to protect his artistic soul.
I love that framing. It is so empowering. And looking at the sheer craft of that artistic soul, we have Aditi Rao Haidari sharing her experience working on the film Gandhi Talks.
A fascinating project.
She took on an incredibly unique artistic challenge, performing the entire film completely without dialogue.
Removing the safety net of words is one of the most terrifying things an actor can do.
I can't even imagine.
The deprivation of speech forces an actor to rely on the absolute fundamentals of human expression. Every micro-expression, the posture, the rhythm of her breathing, the depth and focus in her eyes. It all has to carry the narrative, weight, and exposition that dialogue usually provides.
She talked about the intense challenges and the specific physical techniques required to convey complex emotions silently. But it connects to something so deeply universal for all of
How
us.
so?
We all have moments where we struggle to make ourselves understood without words, whether it's through a look of deep empathy, a sudden gesture of frustration, or just sitting in silence with someone when words entirely fail.
Beautifully observed. When you strip away the dialogue, you bypass the intellect and communicate directly with the audience's empathy.
Utterly.
And there's perhaps no greater expression of empathy and enduring human connection in our reading today than Sutapa Sikdar's note to her late husband, the legendary Irfan Khan.
This piece just stopped me in my tracks.
That was so moving.
Sutapa shared a heartfelt anniversary note. Irfan passed away in 2020, but the love she writes about is so present, so incredibly palpable today. She revealed a detail that is just wonderfully touching. They deliberately chose her birthday, the 23rd, for their wedding anniversary, simply so that he would remember it.
It is such a deeply grounding, intimate detail. It perfectly humanizes him. It reminds us that behind the towering global legacy of an actor like Irfan Khan, a man who could command the screen like few others in cinematic history, was a husband who might forget an anniversary and needed a practical workaround.
And she mentioned that he had explicitly wanted to remarry her after 25 years.
Yeah.
That desire to renew, to actively look at your partner and choose them all over again, it celebrates the enduring human connections that outlast the fleeting nature of cinema. We spend so much time analyzing box office receipts and algorithmic rankings, but Sutapa's note is the heartbeat beneath all of it.
It's why they do it.
It's the very reason art exists in the first place, to express love loss and the poignant beauty of just being alive with someone.
It proves that while ecosystems transition, while technologies change from analog to digital, and while billion-dollar chess pieces move around the board, the fundamental vulnerabilities and deep loves of the human experience remain completely constant.
They really do. We've been sitting in this quiet, deeply reflective space of artistic preservation and intimate human vulnerability. But the reality of the modern industry is that it's often dictated by loud, uncontrollable chaos.
Let's shift gears.
Let's step outside into the spectacle. It is time to look at the internet sleuths, the viral madness, and how quickly public spaces spiral out of control.
Okay, let's get into it.
Take the Karan Aujla concert. He is on his massive PPRP Culture India Tour 2026. He plays to a record-breaking 75,000 fans at the Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium in Delhi.
A massive triumph.
It is a triumph. But what actually dominates the headlines? A chaotic, violent fight breaks out in the VVIP lounge.
The irony here is so thick.
Isn't it?
You have a stadium of 75,000 people, presumably packed shoulder to shoulder in the general admission areas, vibrating with intense musical energy.
Right.
Yet the chaos, the viral video that completely overshadows the cultural achievement of the concert, originates in the VVIP lounge.
Right.
It is a brilliant unintended critique of the system of exclusivity.
The velvet ropes completely fail to filter out the bad behavior.
Exactly. We construct these artificial tiers in society, VIP, VVIP, VVIP, under the deeply flawed illusion that financial access or social status equates to behavioral refinement.
And it just doesn't.
The internet loves a video of a VVIP fight because it ruthlessly punctures that illusion. It shows that beneath the expensive designer outfits and the exclusive lanyards, human volatility is universal.
Yeah.
Money doesn't buy decorum.
It is the democratization of chaos. Everyone is equal when the chairs start flying.
Yeah.
But while that video has a certain schadenfreude to it, we have a report from BollywoodLife.com about a viral moment that is deeply disturbing.
Yes, we need to talk about this.
A 19-minute and 34-second private leaked video has gone violently viral across social media. Now, let's set strict boundaries here for you listening. We are not discussing the contents of the video. We are not speculating on the identities of the people in it, and we are absolutely not engaging in the gossip surrounding it.
Agreed completely.
What is terrifying, and what we must discuss, is the report that the couple involved has completely vanished from public view following the controversy.
This is where we must analytically observe the behavior of the internet as a collective entity.
Right.
Virality in cases of non-consensual leaks becomes a runaway train that consumes context, obliterates consent, and destroys real human lives. A deeply private moment is violently ripped into the public square, and the internet immediately, almost sociopathically gamifies it.
Gamifies it. That's exactly the word.
People aggressively debate its authenticity. They share it in group chats. They create memes, all while completely detaching from the reality that there are actual breathing human beings on the other side of the screen whose lives are being systematically dismantled in real time.
It is the absolute darkest side of the digital age. The internet acts like a swarm of locusts. It descends, consumes the tragedy for cheap entertainment, and then moves on to the next trending hashtag, leaving absolute devastation behind.
And no accountability.
The fact that the couple is missing speaks to the unbearable psychological weight of sudden, non-consensual global scrutiny.
It demands that we question our own complicity as digital citizens. When a user clicks on that trending topic when they share it, or even when they just leave a comment debating its authenticity, they are providing the metric fuel for the algorithmic engine that is actively harming those individuals.
On every click counts.
It is a stark, necessary reminder that our digital actions, which feel so detached and momentary on our phones, have profound, sometimes devastating real-world consequences.
It is a sobering reality check. To contrast that incredibly dark side of internet behavior with something much lighter and relatively harmless, we have the phenomenon of internet sleuthing.
Much lighter territory here.
Vivek Oberoi just dropped a character poster for his new film, Spirit. There is a mystery woman featured alongside him, her face partially obscured. The PR team probably expected a mild buzz, a few retweets. Instead, the internet zooms in to the pixel level, aggressively debating whether the girl is Tripti Demiri or Nikita Dutta.
The consensus right now is heavily leaning toward Nikita Dutta, by the way.
This is the internet functioning as a massive decentralized detective agency.
It really is.
Yeah.
When it is channeled into pop culture minutia like this,
Yeah.
it's a fascinating, highly engaged form of fan behavior. The studio releases a tiny breadcrumb, and the fans collectively construct an entire bakery.
Right.
It highlights a massive shift in how film marketing operates today. The studio puts out the official poster, but they no longer control the narrative surrounding it. The fans do.
I can just imagine thousands of people cross-referencing earlobes and jawlines from previous movie appearances. It is obsessive but fun.
Harmless fun.
But the award for the most bizarre, brilliant use of media this week absolutely goes to actor Rajpal Yadav.
Oh, this story is incredible.
He is embroiled in a serious check-bounce row. Now, normally a celebrity in this situation releases a highly sanitized, incredibly boring PR statement crafted by a team of lawyers.
The standard playbook.
Instead, he goes completely rogue. He starts releasing 2-minute clips of his own film, Atta Padala Pada, on his social media to explain why he didn't seek industry help for his financial troubles.
I genuinely view this as borderline performance art.
Seriously.
Rajpal Yadav is a brilliant comedic actor, and he clearly understands the medium of film far better than the medium of legal press releases. By using clips of his own movie to communicate his real-life, present-day legal defense, he is deliberately blurring the lines between fiction and reality.
It forces the media outlets to play the clips of his movie while reporting on his legal trouble. It's incredible crisis management.
It is an unorthodox, highly effective way for an artist to reclaim the narrative. When a celebrity is facing a scandal, the media usually dictates the framing and the tone. Yadav used his own intellectual property to hijack that framing.
He's genius.
He took a position of legal vulnerability and turned it into an exhibition of his artistic catalog. It's chaotic, yes, but it's also a deeply fascinating strategy of using one's own media footprint to forcefully control public perception.
That actually connects perfectly to our final overarching theme today. We've talked about mega budgets, legacy vulnerability, and viral chaos. Now we are going to look at the intimate moments, the shifting tectonic plates of OTT platforms, and the incredible disruptive power of the micro-budget.
The landscape is shifting fast.
So remember at the very beginning of our deep dive, we talked about how Eid was an absolute bloodbath for massive theatrical releases.
Yes, the billion-dollar chess game.
Well, our sources note that the Holy Week is completely empty of prominent theatrical releases. Instead, it is an absolute feast for OTT platforms. We have Subadar, Young Sherlock, Hello Bashan, and Lalo all dropping digitally.
This highlights a massive structural shift in distribution systems. Historically, every major festival, Eid, Diwali, Holy Christmas, was a fiercely contested theatrical battleground.
The studios fought over all of them.
But now we are seeing a strategic ceding of territory by the studios. While Eid remains reserved for the billion-dollar stars fighting for multiplex supremacy, a holiday like Holi is rapidly becoming an exclusive OTT playground.
Why the split, though? Why is Holi treated differently than Eid or Diwali by the distributors?
It comes down to fundamentally understanding audience consumption habits.
Okay.
Holi is a deeply participatory, messy, physically exhausting festival for many people in India. You are out playing with colors all day, You are tired. The friction of getting cleaned up, getting dressed up again, traveling to a multiplex and spending money is incredibly high.
You just want to relax.
The OTT platforms have realized that the post-Holy evening is absolute geek couch consumption time. By stacking their highest-profile digital releases on this specific week, they are perfectly capturing a captive, exhausted audience looking for high-quality entertainment from the comfort of their living rooms.
It is programming around the physical reality of the audience. That makes total sense.
It's very smart.
And speaking of disrupting traditional models, we have a mind-blowing success story that challenges everything we discussed in Section 1 today. We have a regional film made on a shoestring budget of just rupees 50 lakhs.
50 lakhs.
To put that in context for you, 50 lakhs is basically the catering budget for a movie like Durandar 2. Yet this film has become the most profitable movie of 2025.
Incredible.
It had a massive regional release rolled out successfully in Hindi and is now proudly announcing its OTT date. Alongside this, we have Tejas Saja giving interviews about how they shot the film Mirai on a strictly limited budget.
This fundamentally disrupts the 80 crore non-theatrical safety net model we unpacked earlier. A 50 lakh film succeeding on this massive scale proves that you do not strictly need the safety net of a megastar or a massive pre-release studio deal to find an enormous audience.
It's so refreshing.
It relies purely on the high-concept nature of its story and the raw, unpolished energy of its execution. It is the ultimate victory of substance over scale. When a 50 lakh film catches fire and goes viral through pure organic audience passion, it yields a return on investment that makes traditional studio executives weep.
I bet it does.
It proves the barrier to entry is entirely permeable if the art is good enough.
It keeps the dream alive for independent filmmakers everywhere. Shifting gears to some of the personal dynamics shaping the industry right now, we have a really interesting piece on the superstar Vijay.
Yes.
It reveals that his strictest critic isn't a famous director, a legendary co-star, or a trade analyst. It's his wife, Sangeeta. The article notes that her feedback significantly impacts his career choices.
It is a beautiful grounding detail. It reminds us that behind the massive public persona of a superstar who can command millions of fans, the most critical career decisions are often debated quietly at the kitchen table with the people who know them best.
And staying with Vijay, there is a very nuanced intersection of cinema and politics happening. Filmmaker Mari Selvaraj, who cites Vijay as a massive inspiration for his own cinema journey, has publicly stated that he is waiting for absolute clarity on Vijay's newly announced political ideology before taking any stance or forming an opinion on it.
This is a great observation in the source.
And again, observing our strict impartiality here for you listening, we aren't analyzing Vijay's politics or Selvaraj's politics. What is fascinating is the maturity of the interaction between two massive cultural figures.
It is a remarkable display of intellectual boundaries. Selvaraj is carefully separating his deep artistic fandom from his political responsibilities as a citizen and a filmmaker. He acknowledges the inspiration Vijay provided. He congratulates him on entering public life, but he rigidly maintains his own independent, critical distance until the actual political platform is clear.
She's very measured.
It is a very nuanced, deeply respectful way of handling the complex, often messy reality of a beloved cinema icon transitioning into the volatile world of regional politics.
It is a stark contrast to the knee-jerk reactions we usually see online. Moving through our reading, we have a jarring juxtaposition of celebrity realities. In one dispatch, we have Bengali actress Supashri Ganguly and her 5-year-old son stranded in Dubai due to ongoing serious geopolitical crises in the region, causing flight groundings.
That's so scary.
The article frames this terrifying reality right alongside a retrospective of her love story with filmmaker Raj Chakraborty.
The contrast is intensely jarring. You have the traditional gloss of a celebrity profile, the sweeping love story, the famous couple, the glamorous locations, slamming headfirst into the terrifying, uncontrollable reality of global geopolitics.
The real world invades.
It grounds the entire concept of celebrity. No matter how famous you are, no matter how many followers you have, you are still ultimately vulnerable to grounded flights, closed airspace, and international crises.
It really bursts the bubble of invincibility. And you contrast Subhashri being physically stranded by a crisis with our next dispatch, Elia Pat at Milan Fashion Week.
Right.
She attended Gucci's Demna show and shared that her oversized sunglasses made her feel almost unrecognizable.
That perfectly encapsulates the duality of the modern celebrity experience. On one hand, global geopolitical events can trap you just like anyone else. On the other hand, you seek refuge behind oversized, high-fashion sunglasses in Milan to deliberately escape the very visibility your career demands.
Both are forms of being trapped.
One by circumstance, the other by the weight of fame.
Let's give some of these final moments from our stack the room they deserve, because the aesthetics and the expression of the artists are constantly communicating with the audience. For instance, Sanya Malhotra was turning heads in a black off-shoulder dress.
She looks stunning.
We saw Ranbir Kapoor and Palak Muchal making stylish appearances at recent events. This isn't just about looking good, it's about maintaining a presence, right?
Absolutely. These moments, while they might seem brief or superficial compared to box office economics, are the daily connective tissue between the stars and the audience. It is the constant, meticulous maintenance of the public image.
A carefully curated presence.
A specific look at an event signals relevance, brand alignment, and current cultural status.
And within that constant maintenance of public image, Rukh Singh dropped a quote that resonated deeply. She was asked by the press about her age, and she responded, "I truly believe you are as old as you feel."
A great response.
Openly questioning why society, and the media in particular, feels the constant need to mention a woman's age in every profile.
That quote ties together so much of what we've discussed today.
Yeah.
Whether it's the enduring legacy of a 37-year-old film finding new life, or an actor like Sunil Shetty navigating decades in the industry through sheer resilience, personal mindset dictates public presence.
It really does.
Rukh is actively pushing back against the industry's historical, structural obsession with youth, demanding to be defined by her current energy and capability rather than a birth year.
I absolutely love that energy. A few final drops of pure art before we wrap up this massive deep dive. The song Lali Lali from Varalaxmi Sarath Kumar's upcoming film Saraswati is being hailed across social media as a beautiful emotional ode from a mother to a daughter.
It's finding a huge audience.
We got a teaser for a horror film called Rakasa, showing Sangeeth Shoban looking completely terrified, playing a character entirely out of his depth.
Can't wait for that one.
Mammootty is teasing a potential new project with director Krishnendu Kalesh, which immediately has the cinephile community buzzing with anticipation. Priyanka Chopra sharing the bluff BTS. Ram Charan shared a really fun, candid studio video as he begins the grueling process of dubbing for his highly anticipated film, Petty.
Lots of movement there.
And finally, Sun TV is digitally re-releasing episode 476 of the classic Tamil serial Ethernishal.
That very last point about Ethernishal is the absolute perfect bookend to our earlier discussion about Prasad Labs and preservation.
How so?
It shows the insatiable, enduring appetite for archival content, whether it's a meticulous 4K analog restoration of an Arundhati Roy film for theaters, or the simple digital re-release of a specific beloved television episode from years ago. The audience always craves connection to the art that shaped their past.
What an incredible, expansive journey this stack of reading has been. We have truly run the gamut today.
We really covered a lot of ground.
We started at the absolute peak of the mountain with the billion-dollar chess game of Eid releases and those jaw-dropping 80-core pre-release safety nets. We moved deeply into the tactile, beautiful preservation of 37-year-old analog negatives and unpacked the structural biases of global film algorithms.
The letterbox debate.
We peeled back the curtain to sit quietly with the vulnerabilities of directors facing public failure and actors finding immense strength without speaking a single word. We watched the chaotic unpredictability of internet virality swallow VVIP lounges and deeply private lives.
And we explored the OTT shift.
Exactly. We saw how a 50-lakh indie film can disrupt the entire corporate system while OTT platforms fundamentally reshape how we spend our holidays.
It is a vast, beautiful, and deeply, wonderfully complicated ecosystem. And as we finally pack up our notes today, I want to leave you listening at home or on your commute with one final lingering thought to mull over.
Let's hear it.
We spent a lot of time today talking about what survives the test of time. If the films that eventually become true, undisputed classics are the ones we actively choose to preserve, like that meticulous 4K restoration of an analog negative we discussed, what parts of today's hyper-digital, viral, OTT-heavy culture are we actually saving for audiences 37 years from now?
That is a big question.
When everything is uploaded instantly, when algorithms decide what we see, and when the news cycle moves on in 24 hours, are we actively building a cultural legacy that will last? Or are we just consuming content until the very next distraction arrives?
That is a brilliant, slightly terrifying question to end on. A huge heartfelt thank you to you for joining us at the table today, for leaning in, and for taking this massive deep dive with us. We love exploring these worlds with you. From headlines to heartbeats, you've been listening to Bollywood Deep Dive by IndiaRevue.com. Catch you where the stories are.